Middle school is such a strange time in a young person's life. Don't ask me why I'm writing this right now. It's late at night, and the events of the day seem like they happened so long ago. And yet, I can't get them out of my head right now. Maybe it's just my nerves. Maybe it's the darkness outside. I don't really care, honestly. But I need to get this off my chest. Otherwise, I might not be able to sleep tonight. Damn these memories. I wish they would just go away. It was about 11 years ago when I was in middle school. I was in the 7th grade and I was that kid who wore all black and listened to metal in the back of the classroom. It seems silly to think about now, but everyone had their own little clique when they were in school, I suppose. The goth scene really appealed to me when I was a kid. I was bullied a lot, even before I decided to wear all black and listen to strange music full blast on my Walkman. That screw everyone else in the world mantra really suited me at the time. And for 3 of my friends, it suited them just as well. I guess that's why we got along so well. My friends, 2 of which I haven't heard from for several years now, were just like me. They were goths too. Everyone back then had a clique. They were mine. We'd spend every waking moment together, both in and out of school. They were like my strange outcast family. Notice I said, were. Times change. But I still remember their faces clearly. There was Andy, a very tall, robust kid that was the oldest out of all of us. Kyle, my best friend, was short and very thin. Though his frame may have been small, he got into fights often. He had a fuse the size of a bacterium and was not afraid to give someone he didn't like a black eye. Then there was Billy. Billy was bullied the hardest out of all of us. Braces, pimples, and thick-framed glasses made him the perfect target for bullying. Yet, we 4 did not care about anyone else when we were hanging out together. The rest of the world didn't matter. Only the next Slipknot album did. I'm rambling, aren't I? Well, perhaps I should get to the meat of things. Where this horrible memory comes from, and why I never see those old friends anymore. My friends and I would always go to a park after school and on weekends to hang out. This park was massive, and it held a baseball diamond, a football field, and a soccer field for all of the little kids in their little league games. However, right at the edge of this park was a large wooded area. It was completely cut off from the rest of the park and the community. That was where my friends and I would go to hang out. Out there, no one would see us or bother us. It was the perfect solitude for us goth kids. The strangest thing about this wooded area, however, was a large, out-of-place wall that seemed to edge the park. I would find out later that the wall was meant to separate an old World War II factory from the park, so that the kids wouldn't have to be reminded of the war. But to a couple of kids growing up in the early 2000s, it was an eerie landmark. The strangest part about the wall, aside from the terrible graffiti, was the seemingly out-of-place door right in the middle. The door was completely rusted over and had long since lost its handle. The door was more or less part of the stone wall at this point. I'm not really sure how it was able to stay standing after so many years, being in such a state of disrepair as it was. It was definitely a testament to its forger. Now, I know that this must sound pretty cliché, yet I'm sure whoever is reading this must be pretty curious as we were as to what might be behind that door. Well, as fate would have it, it turns out that 4 goth kids with nothing better to do on a Saturday afternoon were also extremely curious. That Saturday afternoon, at about 4 p.m. or so, after the Little League baseball game, I met up with my 3 bozo friends right by that door, since it was where we usually met. My 3 friends had obvious mischievous smiles plastered all over their faces. "Oh, what are you guys planning on doing?" I asked accusingly, but a smile also stretching over my lips as I looked them over. Andy grinned as he picked up a steel crowbar from the tall grass. My eyes widened, along with my smile. "We're opening that door, Terry. I stole this crowbar from my old man's work truck. He's got like 3 of them. He won't even know it's gone." I remember becoming extremely giddy, almost attaining 5-year-old levels of excitement. "Well, what the hell are you waiting for? Open it up," I shouted at him. The other 2 began encouraging him as well. With a smug look, he placed the crowbar at the frame of the door and began pushing on it. Now, Andy was a big kid, and the door was extremely worn down. It didn't take much effort for him to open the door. With a loud crack, the door flung open, and the 4 of us, dumbstruck, looked into what was behind the door. It was a staircase, going down into an incredibly dark basement or bunker or something. We couldn't even see the bottom of the stairs because of how dark it was. For about 5 minutes, we just stared down the concrete stairs in awe. Kyle was the first one to break the silence. "Whoa," he spoke. "It goes down a while, doesn't it?" "Yeah," Billy said, swallowing a bit. "We should go though. Someone must have heard us. We gotta go, before they call the cops." "Oh, don't be such a baby. We've gone this far. We gotta go down there," Andy exclaimed. The 3 of us looked at him with worried looks. We may have been edgy goth kids, but we were still kids. "I don't know, Andy. It's pretty dark and we don't have a flashlight," Billy said. "Huh, alright, wuss. Go on, Kyle. You go down the stairs." "Me? Why me? You're the one who opened the door. You go down the stairs," he spat angrily. Andy furrowed his brow. "Yeah, and without my crowbar, that door would still be closed, wouldn't it? I already got a free pass on this. Terry, you got here last. You go down the stairs," he yelled at me. My eyes widened as my attention turned from the stairs to the 3 others. "What? Me? Why? It wasn't even my idea to open the door. I'm not going down there," I said. "Come on, someone's got to go down. Billy and Kyle are too big of cowards to do it. That leaves you." "I'm not going down there." "Oh, I can't make you? You can't force me to do it." "Oh, really?" bam. I felt the large, blunt force of a heavy hand against the back of my head as Andy sucker punched me. Andy was bigger and, well, let's just say broader than all three of us put together. His punch nearly knocked me out. In my daze, I remember hearing Kyle shout something as Andy placed his hands on my shoulder and shoved me. I didn't hit the ground like I thought I would. Instead, I remember simply falling down and down into an unfathomable abyss of darkness. He had pushed me down the stairs, but being as light as I was, I never even hit a single concrete step. I just fell and fell and fell until I hit the bottom. I landed hard on the concrete floor. The impact knocked the wind out of me, but surprisingly, I didn't break any bones or, die. The world was spinning, and I couldn't get up, let alone speak. "Andy, what the hell?" Kyle shouted. From the bottom of the steps, the three of them looked like giant shadows against a pure white background. "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit," Billy repeated over and over as he gripped his head. "Is he dead?" "I don't know," Andy shouted. "I just wanted someone to go down the stairs." "What are we gonna do? Terry's down there and he's probably dead." "You murderer. You're going to jail," Kyle shouted. "Oh yeah? You two better get used to the idea then, because I'll tell them you helped me do it. If I go down, you're going with me," Andy spat. "What's wrong with you, dude? We need to go get Terry," Billy chimed in. Just let me think for a minute," Andy said. "Go down there and get him, numbnuts," Kyle shouted. "No, we'll all go to jail if we do. We gotta just close the door." "What?" Billy and Kyle asked in unison as they looked at Andy. "Think about it. We close the door. Terry's body stays down there, and no one finds it. How long's it been since anyone's even opened this door? Our parents have no idea where we go when we hang out. We'll just say that Terry left to go home. No one will know we did it," said Andy. "Screw you, Andy. Billy, let's go down there and..." "I agree with Andy." Kyle shut up as he backed away from the other two. You gotta be kidding me. You too, Billy?" "Dude, if Terry's still alive, he'll tell on Andy. Andy will tell on us and we'll all go to jail. You, me, and Andy. I'm not going to jail, Kyle. Not for Terry, not for you, not for anyone. Look, we're closing that door. It's the easiest solution. And if you go down there to get Terry, you're going to be trapped down there too," Billy said sternly. Kyle shook his head, and I watched the shadows as he punched Billy square in his face. "You're both monsters. I'll never forget about this. Andy, if you weren't such a rat, I'd go to the cops right now, but I can't go to jail." "Oh God, Terry. I'm so sorry," Kyle said as he turned and walked away. I remember reaching out a hand towards the open door and trying so hard to shout for them to rescue me. But the only thing that happened was Andy gripping the door and closing it. With a loud crack, the door was closed, and I was trapped inside a pit of darkness alone. After about 15 minutes, I regained enough of my strength to stand up and shout for help. I screamed and screamed and screamed, but the door never opened. The area I was in was large and empty enough to have an echo. My screams were slowly replaced by tears as I collapsed to the concrete floor and cried. I was going to die there, alone, and my killer would never be caught. I wished we never opened that door. It all happened so quickly. I couldn't believe how fast my only friends had left me to die in the darkness. Even Kyle. I tried to feel my way back to the stairs. I had no idea where I was going, but after about 5 minutes of crawling, I knew I wasn't going to find the stairs. Not without some sort of light to guide me. It was hopeless. I had no idea where I even was, let alone how to get out. I just curled up on the stone floor and cried. Why, God? Why? Why are you doing this to me? I cried into the darkness as I pounded the concrete floor. I felt my hand grow numb as I continued to bash the floor with a fury only a man on his deathbed would know. I stopped when my hand began to bleed. My sniffles were the only sounds left. I was only adding insult to injury. I checked around in my hoodie pockets for anything. Something that could help me out of here. My CD player? No, I don't want to die to a soundtrack. Pack of gum? Well, I was probably going to die of starvation anyway, so the pack of gum may be a good last-ditch supply of non-existent nutrients. That's when I felt it. My saving grace. My cell phone. My first cell phone that my mum got me just for emergencies. Pay as you go. Free weekend minute glory. I nearly started crying again as I pulled out the phone from my pocket. I prayed that it hadn't broken in the fall, but miraculously, it survived the impact. Gotta love Nokia. I pressed one of the keys on the keypad, and a bright light flashed from the screen. It hurt my eyes, now that they were so well adjusted to the darkness. The phone survived in one piece, and soon I could see where I was, and, hopefully, how I could get out. Sometimes, looking back, I wish the phone had broken. I turned the screen outwards so that I could see around me. It was a large, circular concrete room with boxes lining out the walls. A few of them were broken open, and cans of food with worn labels reading "Spam" littered the ground next to them. Signs were plastered over the walls that had radiation symbols on them. My eyes widened as I realized this had to have been a fallout shelter. I walked over to one of the boxes and grabbed one of the cans when something appeared in the corner of my vision. Slowly, I turned to look and nearly dropped my phone at the sight. I placed a hand over my mouth and backed away slowly. The thing was a mummified corpse. It wore an old-timey suit that was covered in dust The suit must have been white to start out with, because now the suit was a disgusting, putrid yellow colour. The corpse itself was surprisingly well preserved. Its skin was a horrific brown, with bones partially sticking out. Its eyes, well, lack thereof, empty black holes. Its nose was gone, and its mouth, oh God, its mouth was shriveled back into its face, into what now resembled an intentional grin. The hair was all gone, with only the disgusting brown flesh remaining in its stead. The corpse was seated on the ground, with a revolver clutched in its hand. Yet, its head, propped up against the wall, seemed to be looking right at me. The colour completely disappeared from my skin as I turned tail and flashed my phone around the room. I found the staircase, and I dragged myself up the stairs. They weren't nearly as far-reaching as we first thought, as I was able to reach the top with a few fear-enhanced strides. The inside of the door didn't have a knob either. I began to hyperventilate as I realised why that corpse was alone down here. He must have been trapped down here, without a handle to open the door and get out. I grit my teeth, and I began to bash the door with my shoulder. It wouldn't budge. I bashed my fist against the door, and I screamed for help. But nothing happened. The door remained steadfast. My lower lip quivered as I realised just how hopeless my situation was. I was to become just another mummified corpse, like that poor guy in the corner. It was then I felt a hand rest against my shoulder. I swallowed as my head turned around slowly, only to be met face to face with that corpse. My heart stopped. The corpse looked at me with its empty sockets, its chest moving in and out slowly, while its twisted grin of a mouth breathed out dust. It took a slow step upwards to get closer to me. I closed my eyes and I waited for the inevitable to happen. I heard a raspy, deep voice in the darkness saying,
"No. No."
My eyes opened at the voice as tears rolled down my face. The corpse's hand reached out, touched the door, and pushed against it. Like magic, the door creaked open, and the light of the outside world entered the staircase. The light blinded my eyes, causing me to forget about the corpse for half a second as my arm rushed to cover my eyes. Remembering what had just happened, I immediately bolted out of the door, and I landed on the soft grass as I tripped over my own feet. I rolled onto my back, and I looked backwards at the corpse. He was standing there, just behind the open door. I nearly screamed as all the colour drained from my face. It turned around and grasped the door, shutting it closed again. I could hear its voice continue from the other side as it kept on repeating,
"No. No. No."
I immediately got to my feet and ran as far and as fast as I could away from that door, never wanting to see that thing again. I suppose you all can guess what happened after that. I went to my mother and I told her everything that happened. She was horrified at what my friends had done and immediately called the police. They arrived quickly and immediately questioned me for what had happened. I told them, well, almost everything. I told them about the door, opening it, Andy sucker punching me, them leaving me to die. But I left out the part of how I got out of there. Who would believe it? While I did mention that there was a corpse down there, I lied and said that I was able to get the door open by slamming my shoulder into it. The police wrote down everything I told them and left to go file the report, as well as pick up Andy and the other two. My mother did not let go of me when they left. While her closeness was a bit annoying to an edgy goth kid, I still allowed myself to hold on to her, and I cried into her shirt for a while. I was alive. I was safe. I had been face to face with a corpse that moved, walked, and talked, just like out of a horror movie. The more and more I mulled it over in my head, the more and more it began to seem like a paranoid delusion caused by fear. It had to be, right? Andy, Billy, and Kyle were all picked up and questioned by the police the next day. Andy, of course, lied to the police and told them that I had opened the door and went down the stairs by myself. Billy backed up his lie, probably having been intimidated by Andy. Kyle was the only one who told the whole story of what happened. With his testimony as well as mine, Andy was sent to juvenile hall, while Billy was given a warning and a hefty fine for helping Andy, as well as for lying to the cops. They let him off easy, because of how Andy had intimidated him. Nothing would show up on his criminal record. He'd still be able to go to college and have a promising career. Kyle got off with just a warning. Andy, after juvie, was sent to military school, so I never did see him again anyways. Good riddance. It took me several months to speak to Billy or Kyle again, and even after, I hated Billy. My hatred has not gone away to this day, in fact. That corpse was found in the shelter a few days after Andy's trial. The corpse was still in the same place it was before, leaning against the wall, with the revolver clutched in its hand. No identification was found on him, and he was simply buried as a John Doe in a local graveyard. While that corpse's appearance frightens me to this day, it did save me. Whether or not it did open the door, or if that part was a delusion, I still visit that grave every once in a while, and I leave a few flowers on it. I guess that's about the end of my little story. It feels better to get this off my chest. Still though, I can't help but think about how that corpse got there in the first place. What if that thing was down there alone for a reason? What if I let something out of there that should have stayed down there? What if it let me out so that it could be found? Am I crazy for thinking this way? This happened so long ago, but this memory keeps coming back. That, and the fact no one has seen or heard from Billy or Andy for the past few years. This is all too much. I don't know why. Maybe it's survivor's guilt, something like that. But I can't help but think I've done something horribly wrong.